And I can't hold it much longer. Gonna let go so I can be free. Yeah, yeah.
What's up?
Oh, yeah.
So it's awards week. I'm excited for the guests today because we have two Manager of the Year candidates. One of them won. One of them, I think, got a good shot. Didn't end up getting close. But before we dive into those results, do you guys like Manager of the Year? Now, obviously, MVP makes sense. Cy Young makes sense. Rookie of the Year makes sense. Sometimes writers make fun of Manager of the Year, and I'm like, I like it. I think it's cool. It leads often to a good discussion. I mean, I think there's become a format for it where it's like, what were the expectations and how much did they...
It's more of an exceeding expectations kind of thing.
Yeah, like predictions almost, like public
because
predictions.
if good teams hardly ever manager ever wins this.
Correct.
Right? Like if Dave Roberts, because they're expected to win 100 games, doesn't have a chance really at winning this award because everyone expects him to win 100 games, but then they go out and win the World Series and do the whole thing, and he gets like no votes.
But it's a regular season award.
He got three third-place votes.
Regular season award. Can I make
I understand
the case?
that, but why is it based on expectations? I mean, the Dodgers went through a lot of stuff.
They did.
A lot of injuries, a lot of this, a lot of that. But because they went into the season with a million expectations, he doesn't get any love for it. Much like Aaron Boone, same way.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, I don't know.
To me, it's what are your resources? What are the public predictions? And then how does that factor in? I'm okay with that. You know, to me, Kratz, if we spoke to Boone and Doc and said, would you rather be a Manager of the Year candidate or just have the resources and people thinking you're going to do well because on paper it looks like you have a really strong team? I don't think they care. So I think this is cool to recognize some other standouts in the sport.
I think it's cool. It is just based on expectations. That's why I think I'm with you. I think Hinch should have gotten a lot more first place votes. But I also think Snitker should have gotten more votes. I mean, they had high expectations for the team.
Yeah, if you're gonna go on the specifics, well, let me just hit the button and then we'll do it, and then we'll go right to you. Give me your thoughts.
He's charging the mound.
Hit it.
The Braves were hurt. Why would Snitker not get more votes? They lost their Cy Young candidate and their MVP, and they lost their third baseman. Why would he not get more votes? Because they still made the playoffs. Like there was the Brewers have been to the playoffs for however many straight, 6 out of the last 7 years. So Brian should have gotten. They were injury riddled. So basically, he did a lot to get up there. I mean, were the Padres hurt that much? I guess they lost Ha-Sung Kim. Each one of their starters were down at some point. I don't know. I think if
Tatis, they lost Tatis. I mean, they lost a lot of guys. I mean, but also not only that, but Machado was hurt at the beginning of the year. But it was the fact that Mike Schilt, the Padres were supposed to take a step back and they took a step forward.
Also,
the key to me is Joe Espada didn't get hardly any votes.
Yeah,
they started out awful and still won the division.
Sure,
I thought he should have got some more votes.
That's a good-looking team, though.
But still, they started out terrible. They had a bunch of guys down.
Isn't that on them too? I mean, I think it's a good debate on both sides, just how it played out. All right, so fine. Let's start here while we're up here, and then we'll go back.
I mean, Rocco Baldelli got a third place vote. I mean, no offense to Rocco and Alex Cora. I mean,
wait, that's a good one. How did Rocco Baldelli
and Alex Cora both
get a vote? The Twins didn't make the playoffs. They had one of the worst collapses we've seen in a minute. And in my mind, they were pretty heavily favored to win the division. Who did that?
Who did Alex Cora?
Who did that? Who are you?
I know.
Who are you out there? You know who it was?
No, I do know that exactly what I said. These guys fill these papers out way too soon. They're filling this out. Like we had the argument, like if this is exactly end of the season ends, and then you fill it out, I think we get different results. I think everybody thought not everybody. One person voted for Rocco Baldelli. That person thought the Twins were getting in. Because if everybody saw the fact that A.J. Hinch's Tigers made it into the playoffs, the way they did it, they would have changed their vote. I do not.
But that's not how this works.
I don't think
You're
it was done on the
supposed to
last
submit
day.
it at the end of the season, and if you don't, then maybe we should punish whoever's thinking that way. How do you vote for someone
How about
who
Ollie
was part of
Marmol?
a
No offense
collapse?
to Ollie Marmol. He's a great guy. He got a third place vote.
How does
Brutal.
that happen?
Brutal.
I didn't really think of things that way, but it is good for our show to kind of look at things that way.
I mean, Rob Thompson got 1 first and no seconds and no thirds. They made the playoffs. They won the division. He doesn't get credit for because his team was too good.
You got to rank this. Okay, so let's throw. I mean, dealer's choice.
It usually also
Director
goes
Jeremy,
to
throw
a
one
new
of
guy.
those up there, and then let's actually slice this up for a moment. Okay, so let's start with National League. If you think Rob Thompson deserved more, then you need to tell me who he's supposed to jump. And I also didn't get this thought in, but I wanted to for Kratz. Not only did the Padres shed payroll and have to get rid of a player like Juan Soto, 2023 was a massive disappointment for that team. That team should have been much better.
Hold on. They lost Blake Snell,
Yeah.
Josh Hader,
Yep.
Juan Soto, just to start.
Yeah. And they were a force.
And they were a force.
down
And
the
every
stretch.
Dodger guy's like, man, they were the best team we played. They were the toughest opponent, all that stuff.
So then Schilt maybe should have gotten more
I
love.
said
He got a lot
I
of
got
love.
blasted when I got blasted when I said Schilt, Mendoza, and Murphy are the 3. Now, however you want to
Those
vote
were
on
the
those,
3.
that's how they finished in the 3.
How would you have
But
voted?
just that Murph ran away with it, I thought it should have been closer.
Right. But the here, let me tell you why sometimes votes aren't as close as you think they are. If everybody thinks it's really close, but they give the edge to one person, then everybody's going to have that person as a first place vote, which is what Murph got. So would either of you have voted the top 3 differently?
No.
Right. So that's why it ends up being a landslide. Because if everybody's like, hey, I see a really good case for B and C, but everybody thinks it's A, then you're going to get 27 out of 30 first place votes. And that's why when you guys go lower in the order and you say, hey, I think so-and-so deserved more love. Okay, over who? That's the problem too.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I'm not saying they deserve love. I'm just saying it's interesting how some of these votes were played out.
Yeah. Let's go to, can we show American League one more time too? I just want to look at the numbers there. All right, so same thing, right? Vote wins 27 out of 30 votes. Matt
Which is
Quatraro
great. He
gets
deserved
2, and AJ Hinch gets 1. Is it because he's a first-year manager? You take a team that didn't have high expectations, you manage the bullpen like that,
Same
they
with
win the
Murph.
division.
Same with Murph.
Yeah. But man, Quatraro and Hinch did a job. I mean, that was...
But they finished behind him in that order in the division.
Right. It played out that way. Man, the Tigers situation is crazy. I know we're going to talk to Hinch, Kratz, but they were so far out of it, and they also were not working with much on the pitching side.
I would have switched. I would have switched Quatraro and AJ. I would have had the Tigers second, just because I think what Voter did was unbelievable. I mean, that can't be taken away, but we may not see in the next 10 years another season, end of the season like the Tigers had. Everything involved with the fact that at the trade deadline, they got rid of their second best pitcher and they almost made the American League Championship Series. Like they made the playoffs. Yes, it was a collapse by the Twins, but to me, I would have had him second.
Can we find out who voted for Rocco? Like I covered him for years. I'm friendly with him. I mean, he's great, right? But this was not their year, and it definitely does not
You
deserve
have to
a
make all
manager
your
of the
votes
year
public.
vote.
We asked Ken yesterday who he had the AL MVP.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not going to tell you.
No, I think he
You know
is
why?
both. You can't tell until the votes come out.
Okay,
'cause if
once
you
the votes
add
come
everyone
out-
up,
Once the votes come out, everybody should have to post their ballot.
I think Ken does.
For everything. I'm talking like for MVP, for Hall of Fame, for all of it. I think everyone should have to post their ballot.
Yeah.
I
What
don't
is the
understand why we
reasoning-
keep it a secret.
Yeah, what is the reasoning? What have you guys ever heard of any reasoning for why writers keep it secret? Because they don't want backlash?
Yeah.
Yeah, for
They
Hall
don't want
of Fame.
players mad at them. They don't want coaches mad at them.
Yep. And the public. So if you're that one person who truly thinks that, I don't know, name that person, Ichiro or Mariano Rivera or whatever, doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, then they're like, cool, you can just vote and hide. But my thing is, I feel like this isn't the election. Like, this isn't politics. This is also entertainment. It's a fan sport. They fund this whole thing. I think that transparency is important in this case. If you think there's a reason why someone doesn't deserve something, write about it. Isn't that your job anyway as a journalist? You should be
Yes.
able to put that out there. So, hey, I don't want to make this like we're knocking writers because just so you know, most writers now do lay out their
Mhm.
ballots for awards and for Hall of Fame. So this is just a few. I'm just saying in general, maybe this person already put it out publicly, but do we know who placed a vote for a non-playoff team that was favored to win a division and fell apart down the stretch?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you had to tell your vote, I think it would maybe put a little bit more importance on it. Not saying that everybody, we're not talking about everybody doesn't think it's important, but I just think, hey, why did you think? And maybe it'll bring to light something that we didn't see. Maybe it's a Cardinals writer who was like, I saw what Ali Marmol did every single day. I'm a Twins writer. I saw what Rocco Baldelli was doing and dealing with and the drama that was going on. And to me, that brings to light another story about a team in a regional sport for the entire nation to see.
Well, I'm going to try and do some digging and see what happens. But anyway, first up, we are going to talk to AJ Hinch. We can ask him about this. I mean, what he thinks about the process and how the ride was for him. So we'll swing back. We'll get to AJ Hinch. If he's not ready yet, we'll get to a question or two. We'll get to some other news. There was a little trade yesterday, so we'll cover that soon. The Mets acquiring Jose Siri, Pat Murphy later, Jim Bowden later. Good one today. Hey people, voting for awards sometimes isn't easy. But you know what is? Mint Mobile! Bingo! No hoops, no BS. If you want what everyone has, but for less, right? If you're like, hey, well, everyone gets the nation's largest 5G network, or should, right? Everyone should get high-speed data, unlimited talk and text, right? Well, cool. You can do that. So if you haven't learned about Mint Mobile, you haven't watched us yet, you haven't paid attention, here's the deal. We'll show you the board. You can get a new customer offer that gives you a plan for $15 a month. There's no like extra nooks and crannies to all of this. It's real. Mintmobile.com/territory, TERRITORY, to cut your wireless bill to $15 a month. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on their first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. Make sure you see Mint Mobile for details. It is that easy. You make a little phone call to your old provider. You say, I'm sorry, it's not me, it's you. You're too expensive, so I'm going to Mint Mobile. Be right back. Hey, here we go. AJ Hinch, right on foul territory, coming off the Manager of the Year announcements yesterday. Didn't win it, but finished top 3. Had a ridiculous season. I'm sure you're okay with it. So, AJ, how locked in were you to finding out the results? And did you think that you had a chance? And what's up, man? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Well, hello, and thanks for having me. Yeah, and I didn't know what was going to happen. I do love that all three of us were in the AL Central, so we saw each other up close and personal like the whole season, and saw the work that Steven did and Q, and we had a great run in the AL Central in general. And then when we were in the playoffs, there was a three-way text with the three of us talking about three of the last four teams standing in the American League came out of our division. So drop a little respect in the AL Central, and then we kind of duked it out last night. I think all of us thought Steven was going to win, but it's great to be nominated and the writers seeing what we're doing.
Do you feel like the writers maybe voted a little early? The fact that you only got the points that you got? I mean, that was my argument before you hopped on. Like, and I texted you like, hey, when you win the American League Manager of the Year award, and you were like, that's a little presumptuous. But I texted it to 6 other people, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly. I know you didn't. That was a copy-paste text, copy-paste. I get it. But I know you can only text it to the 6 of us that were up for the award. So I felt at least, a little bit exclusive club. But, I don't know. I think this award is always unique. I mean, I've been in this grouping for a few times, and there are times I feel like, hey man, I did a really good job managing what I had or what I did, and then other years where I got a lot of attention, I was like, man, I still walk away thinking you could do a lot better. I agree with what Buck said on the show last night, which is this is such an all-encompassing award because a lot of what we do behind the scenes is never known except by coaches, players, and people in your organization. But it's hard to argue against any of the candidates that were up last night. I'm just super proud that the Tigers got back in the playoffs. We're going to get a big award, or watch our big boy get a big award tonight, and that's going to be incredible for the organization. And now the fun begins to try to get further and further.
Do you think this was your best performance, at least in the regular season, in your career, to take what you guys had, what position you were in, right, on paper, where it's the trade deadline sellers and working with the pitching staff and kind of really having to get creative in the second half, and then still you put all that together, but having to win so many damn games to get caught up. So do you think this, when you look back, was your best regular season performance?
Yeah, it's unique. I mean, I hadn't had that happen in my career. I managed 10 or 11 years. My first year in Houston was coming off of a long run of losing, first time in 10 years that we made the playoffs. That regular season was almost picture perfect until September. We got caught by the Rangers and we had to win the wild card. This year, I don't remember, I've had sort of big teams with big names and big win totals. That's a whole different animal to deal with as a manager. This one, we dealt with a lot of peaks and valleys, and we were a team that was trying to learn how to win, and we were scratching and clawing at the deadline. The deadline comes and goes, and we make a few trades. And then we got younger and got better, and then we got super hungry at the end. And I think the thing that I'm the most happy about with my staff and my players and the people around our team is we got better as the attention grew on us. Like, we were an incredible story for a long part of that second half. And the DNA and personality of our team didn't change. We just kept getting a little bit better and a little bit better. And to go from, virtually, counted out to being the hottest team in baseball and me having teams say they didn't want to play us in the playoffs, that was pretty cool.
Hinch, I thought your best managerial job was that time with the White Sox when you sent out the letter thanking the fans and you autographed the thing at the bottom. That was by far your best managerial job. How you didn't win Manager of the Year that year, I still haven't figured it out. But you tried for 5 minutes or so when you sent the letter out. It's fine. But
tell people to Google it if they don't.
Yeah, if you don't know the story, Google it. The White Sox sent out a letter that was signed by. It's crazy. Anyway,
I never got paid for that, by the way, either. I never got paid for that, so I don't know that I was an official employee at that
time. Do you care about this? Because they don't even give a trophy, do they, to the Manager of the Year? Do they give like a little plaque? It's like this big that you stick in your office. So when the GM walks in, you're like, "Hey, look at that! I got Manager of the Year." Because you guys even care? I mean, because I said Dave Roberts and Aaron Boone, they went to the World Series. They didn't even come close to winning this. So does this matter, or is this just all media, hullabaloo about, hey, a guy had a really cool year?
I think what I like the most about it is what it signals for your team that you did something that people didn't expect. I mean, if you look at the 3 finalists in the American League, you see, some really cool years. I mean, Steven got off to a big start, huge start in our division, went wire to wire as a first-year manager and the best bullpen in baseball, and he was dialed in the entire year. You look at what Q did, where they had a 100-loss season, and now all of a sudden they were factoring in for a large portion of the season, and then obviously our story. So, this award is sort of bigger than you yourself, because there are decisions you make that people remember. There are decisions you don't make that nobody ever asks you about in this job. So, and the short answer, yeah, of course you care, and you love the attention on your team more than you care about it individually. Buck said it again last night. I thought he did a tremendous job on this show, where he's like, hey, be careful what you wish for, because what changes now is expectations, because it means that the team's all made strides moving forward to gain a little bit of momentum. And now, that improbable story isn't going to be as improbable when you did something positive the previous year.
I mean, Joe Girardi got fired after the year he won Manager of the Year. So, I mean, clearly, GMs, when you go in for an interview, do you hold that up on your resume? Or are you like,
I can't hold anything up. I've never won it.
I know, but I'm saying do you go in and you say, I finished 3rd place for Manager of the Year? So put that on your resume.
I think this one is the most confusing of the awards, because it's hard to measure. And even all of our careers, we know the managers that made the most impact doesn't mean that it was the year that we won the most, or the years that that there was a bunch of drama behind the scenes and things were all kept in order. I mean, I think this award is often, to the person who made wasn't maybe expected to do as much, and all of a sudden they make an incredible run or do something uniquely special. I'm super proud for Pat Murphy too. I had Murph a couple different times in my career, played against him in college, and then all the way worked in the same organization with him, and to watch him take over that team and roll through into the play. All that was really cool. Mendy did a great job in New York. Schilte, we ran into a beast of a team in September. So I just love the story of these 6 teams, and that's probably the most gratifying part when you're the manager and the recognition is coming your way.
As a player, you're always looking at other players and you're like, man, if I could do that like that guy, if I could emulate the way he swings or the way he catches and throws, all that stuff. Do you do that as a manager? And are there any traits of Q or voter that you look at and you're like, wonder if I could do that?
Yeah, great question and great topic, because I think most of us look over in the other dugout and they're like, I wish I had that dude. I wish I had that dude. Like, you look over and there are some pretty comfortable guys when they got some beasts hitting in the middle of the order. But I think the thing that you notice as an opposing manager, obviously the strategy is one thing. I learn a little bit more about these guys in the post-game comments, like how they handle the media, how they handle the big decisions, the non-decisions, how they keep their morale up through the media. I mean, our players read and listen to everything. So you want to be a good face and a good message sender, whether it's directly to them or with your post-game comments. And I think one thing that specifically Steven does that it's so authentic in how emotionally tied in he is with his players, and he's emotionally present with them. And I didn't know, I called him after he had a sort of an emotional post-game press conference about kid hit a homer and Naylor's out at second and he's celebrating. And I wanted to know the backstory behind what made him so emotional, and his ability to be vulnerable is, I always try to be this stoic dude. I'm pretty even keeled. I mean, I'm getting a little bit better and better at reacting to things. Like that damn camera, that camera's on you all the time. And like, that you're sort of being watched by everyone. It's hard to be, completely yourself in how you feel. And I love how Steven does that. Q's a tactician, man. Like he's, and obviously he worked with Kevin Cash in Tampa, who I have a ton of respect for. He will work his way through like a lot of scenarios, and he's a little more unpredictable than he's given credit. I love that about him. So you look at other guys and see like, not only who they're working with, but what they're doing with their pieces and kind of put yourself in their shoes.
Hinch, All right, so I got to ask this. Would you rather do what Stephen Vogt did and just run the division? Is it easier to do, hey, almost wire to wire for the Guardians, or what you guys did at the end and just come out of nowhere and whitewash everybody and use your pitching chaos and Tarek Skubal throwing 9 shutout every time out? Which one's easier? And which one, obviously, you'd rather do Stephen Vogt, or maybe which one's more fun? Probably the way you did it is more fun, right?
I'd rather get to the ALCS the way Stephen Vogt did. That one hurts me more than him getting this
Well, he
award
also
over
they had a bye though. If you would have got the bye, maybe you got.
That's right. We have been well rested. That's right.
But you did beat your old team, so I
we
mean,
did beat
it's kinda
Houston.
like,
That's right. So I think it brings up a great point about managing, and it's very different when you clinch early or when you're off to a big race. There's a sense of you holding on to something for the year. It's hard to keep your guys sort of dialed in, for as long as you have to, as opposed to like you're the thoroughbred that's like kicking that horse trying to get to the finish line and never really letting anything up the way that we did. I think that, I mean, they're both great. I mean, if you get to the playoffs, the celebration, the champagne tastes the same, but I think it's all unique to like your team. What I loved about our run is this was the first time for virtually everybody not named Matt Vierling. I mean, Vierling had played in the World Series. Everybody else on our team, Kenta had done some things with the Dodgers, but most of our players were like doing this for the first time. And I think the first time you do it, there's something special about the personalities that come out in your players, the nerves, the conversations, the energy, like all of that with your coaches and players. That first time is like the best time. And so, I'm not saying it was easier for the Guardians, who had a few more playoff tested players, but I think each team kind of has like what was best for our team was to learn how to win this way. Now we're gonna, hopefully win it a different way.
All right, so one kind of funny one for me, and I know it's a division rival and all of that, but there was a guy that voted for Rocco Baldelli, top 3 here, third, and like I know it was a crap season for them to go through that, but like how does that happen? I know you can't talk for the person, but like if you were in his shoes, you'd be like, I didn't deserve a vote, right? Like no matter what, even if it wasn't quote on you, like it just can't happen.
Yeah. Well, so I also think this is very unique. My chances, getting into this vote or even potentially challenging, like finishing first or second or whatever, was that the recency of like the finish. Like everybody remembers those last 40 games. Like what I would think about is like we got off to a great start in April. Like we played very well in April. We played okay in May. We were awful in June. And then we had this pit in June and July, and then we trade and the narrative around our team changes, and then we had a sprint race. Like that was our journey. The Rocco part doesn't surprise me because like for the large majority of the season, they were part of the class of the division. Like they were the team that was ahead, both Kansas City and us. We were all chasing Cleveland, but Rocco didn't do a bad job. So I cringe a little bit at the thought that like just the bad finish or the slow finish or the losing in the last month defines the entire season. That's not how we managers think. But we know that's gonna how we're gonna be judged a little bit on the final. Like that is part of playing the 162 is everything matters in the season. So, I know that during the year we looked up at Minnesota for a large majority of the season. Like they were going through a ton of injuries, and then we were watching the scoreboard every night to see how we were comparing up against them because they were one team we needed to leap. But I think Rocco's a terrific manager. I know he had a really rough end of their season, and that's kind of part of why the schedule is built the way it is to have to play all the games.
Okay, so next year when you go into your press conferences and you have to say, hey, it's your turn to ask a question, are you going to let Cody Stavenhagen have the first question every single one? And does he get an added bonus because he's the guy who voted for you in first place? So does he get is he like automatic? Cody, you're first. Go.
And because he does Tiger territory.
Also because he does Tigers territory. But,
he does Tigers territory. I went on that podcast the other day before this was all revealed. And like, I'm glad that he voted for me because I would have definitely had a one-liner for him if he hadn't. That he got me in the podcast or on the podcast before he had to reveal his vote. He was very quiet about everything. I had no idea how he voted. I did know that he had a vote, but when he went with me, I don't know that it gets him anything now. I can't give him that much that much more access. I try to talk to all of our guys, but man, it would have. I'm not sure which way I would have preferred it, having banter with him to be able to rag on him, or now I feel like, man, you actually did support me in this vote, and now I got to give you a little love.
All right, let's hit free agency a little bit because you guys did all that you can do. And I think before those last 40 games, your free agency conversations may have been a little bit different than they are going into now you're in free agency. How much do you keep in contact with ex-players that you've managed throughout your career? Because this is the time that you're kind of like cashing in, or you've deposited, not on purpose, but you've deposited into that bank account of ex-players, and now some of them are free agents. How much do you keep in contact with them before this time?
Well, you and I text. You're an ex-player. I had you. You and I text all the time. I don't text.
Yeah, but I'm
Pierzynski.
awesome.
I don't text Pierzynski. So I have there's your separation between
Listen, I don't give out my number like Kratz does, okay? I'm not like Kratz. I don't just give my phone number out freely. You have to earn that right to have my phone number.
I've been asked a ton of questions about free agency with us, and obviously I try to stay dialed in with all the guys that I've had, and they're not all free agents. Like I stay in touch with our guys the best I can because you go through so much of this baseball life together and a ton of experiences. So I know where everybody's making natural connections. If that ever ends up flourishing, great. Right now our first part of the off season. I'm pretty dialed into what our current players are doing and what we need to do to dial it up and be a little bit better. Part of us getting better, while it may be external additions, it's also going to be internal improvement. So that part of it, and then you just wait. We wait like everybody else does. Like what's going to happen? The winter meetings are coming up. We'll all be there. And then the momentum will start to go. And then who knows how the winter goes. There's been times where it's been a flurry, and there's been times where it's been dragging out until the final hour. So I talk to our front office virtually every day in some capacity and stay dialed into what we're doing. And they know they can call on me if we need to go on the recruiting trail.
All right. First move, fire Joey Cora. That's it.
No chance. No chance. No chance. Who else is going to send every runner around third?
That's a great point. That's a great point.
He's the most aggressive third base coach in baseball.
Or Juan Nieves. You could get rid of him too. Your bullpen automatically be better.
Not a chance. This is the first time in my career at any stop that I've had that our staff in its entirety is coming back. Now, some of that doesn't mean everybody gets fired, but it means, nobody got poached from your staff to get a promotion. And so that continuity is going to be awesome. I have a ton of quality on this coaching staff, and delivering that news that we were all coming back to run it back and then, push this thing even further was pretty awesome as manager.
All right, so let's just finish with this because, not getting into individuals on the market, but are the Tigers going to go hard with transactions?
Well, the beauty of that is you got to talk to the big bosses up top. I mean, obviously there are a lot of ways for us to get better. I know everybody wants to know sort of, where the big splash is coming. We have a lot of areas that we can get better, and we're trying. I know our group's committed in the front office. We want to win. This is a place that you can come to and win. This is a place that you can come to and get better. We've shown that now, and anybody that comes our way is going to be joining a winning organization, and that I think is a good fresh start for the Tigers.
Okay, I like that. It's a good answer. Yeah,
I'll buy some Little Caesars so you guys can get a free agent. How's that?
It
Perfect.
doesn't hurt.
We take all that we can get.
Some of those little cheesy bites they have out. Have you seen this?
Not for you, AJ.
Not for Hinch. That's right. Not for Hinch.
Well,
No.
Show me a receipt, then I'll believe you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, buy a few
fresh now,
$1,000 of cheesy bites. Well, AJ,
You can get
awesome.
my number from Kratz.
Yeah.
He's the one that I text the most on the show.
There's no doubt.
AJ, this Pierzynski's actually a good texter. So
I'm not a good phone caller person.
No, he's a texter. He's pretty funny actually. So maybe we'll get that connection going. But Hinch, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate the time as always that you give to us.
I want to know how he does his background like that. How do you get your it's just so
there's a blur
perfectly
thing.
it's so perfectly focused on your face, and then the background is just look at my big league pad I have back here, but just focus on my face.
Well, just focus on my face. I'll worry about the background.
Yeah, and AJ Hinch, I'll show him the 1-click setting on the camera or tablet.
It's pretty
Don't worry,
simple.
I got that.
Hey, we all didn't go to Stanford. The
did
Dr.
not.
Phillips of the West, okay?
Stop it.
Don't knock it till you come and do it.
That's
Oh,
right.
we've had that story.
Thank you, AJ.
We'll see it.
See you, man. All right, so I want to clarify something. I know we're right 99.9% of the time, but Hall of Fame voting can be private if you want it to be, and that's administered by the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball Writers Association is public when the votes come out.
Yeah, we saw. So you get all your.
But we initially said,
names.
"Hey, we want to hear," and I was like, "I want to hear who the Twins are," and then I actually got a bunch of texts from writers being like, "They're out there. Just hit the website, idiot." So I was like, "Okay, my bad." So anyway, Lawrence Dow of the Dallas-Fort Worth media voted Rocco Baldelli third. So I will DM him right after the show and ask him if he wants to come on, genuinely defend why he made that choice. That is part of this. This is debate. It's fun. I want to hear what he has to say. Our guy Keith Law, I'm sure he'd come on. We can ask him about Marmol. And then the other one that stands out to me is Mike McGarry, to a lesser extent.
Hey, he's an Atlantic City guy, though. He's a homer like Kratz.
Right,
I mean,
so that's a little easier.
Guy.
So, Mike, I mean, well, I sure would love to have you on, but I get that one a little bit in terms of, I don't agree with homer voting, but it exists. I did ask, how early you can submit to some of the writers, and I did get that there are some people that do that. So, Kratz, you are right. Many don't, but some do, and that could be, part of the issue here. But if that's the case, like let's say Lawrence comes on and says, "Hey, you know what? I submitted September 10th, and the Twins were good back then." Well, then you know what my answer is going to be.
Wait,
why? Dude, this is a big honor. This is a big deal.
It's one button. You press send, right?
Yeah, wait until September 30th or whatever the last day of the season was. Come on, dude. What? It's not like, I got to get my taxes done early, so I did it. It's like, no, dude, the season's still going. Things can happen. What were the standings on September 10th? Not nearly as good. So anyway, we'll work on that, okay? I'll send a DM. Should we ask Keith too? Yeah. Ask Keith about Marmol? Mm-hmm. I would say those are the two.
Those are the two that stand out the most, probably.
Okay, so then let's do that. We'll work on them
and
over
Alex
the next
Cora
couple
got
days.
A third place vote too.
Yeah, and Lavella's actually on here a couple times.
Yeah, but Torrey, they had a lot of injuries. They had guys go down. Gallen didn't pitch as well.
They didn't make the playoffs.
Obviously, Monty didn't pitch very well.
Yeah.
Corbin Carroll had a bad first half, and he kept him in it. So, I mean, that one's a little bit more understandable.
Okay, so we got our two. Lawrence is by far leading the power rankings.
They looked like they were going to make the playoffs, the Diamondbacks.
They did.
And they kind of faltered. If it wasn't for the Twins, they would have been the big story.
Yep. Let's sizzle. We've got activity here. There's actually another trade that just came through. So let's start with that one first. Jeff Passan reports that Eli Morgan is headed to the Chicago Cubs. I didn't see any return yet on his tweet, but my guess is that it's a prospect. The Cubs have plenty of them. Good reliever. I start looking, I'm like, is he going to cost them money in arbitration? That's what you start having to think with Cleveland. It's a really good relief pitcher. This past season, a 1.93 ERA in 42 innings, 34 punch-outs. He's had a really nice career so far. This was a takeoff for him, right? He had been good. He had a 4 ERA in 23. It was a 3.38 in 22. And also, it's a reliever. ERAs and everything. ERA plus also was above average both those seasons. But this year was dynamite out of the bullpen for Cleveland. But now he's been, 4 years into the big? So I'm like,
he's been good, but he's been used properly.
Yeah,
right?
But that's fine.
The Guardians have done a really good job of protecting when he pitches. A lot of changeup, so he's better against lefties. So they really kind of he hasn't pitched a ton of super high leverage. He's been more of a 5th, 6th, 7th inning kind of guy. Now he has thrown some later innings because his numbers have been so good, but I like this pickup for the Cubs, and Craig Counsell is one of the best at managing bullpens and trying to get guys in good situations. So I like this, but this is not going to change the Cubs fans' feelings on what they need to do this offseason.
Of course not. But you need to build bullpen depth.
True. And that was the thing that hurt the Cubs. They had no bullpen.
Yeah, they had no bullpen. I mean, Morgan goes to the Cubs, and he might be their best reliever, at least top 3 right from the jump. Alzolay, I think, is going to get cut.
He got DFA.
Did he get cut? Or he got cut yesterday, was it? Okay.
Yeah,
so I was looking, I'm like, he gone. So, I mean, yeah, they need to start building that bullpen back up. Obviously, they need to do bigger things. But these are often the deals, in my mind, Kratz, that don't get talked about enough. And then fast forward, let's say the Cubs do surprise people and make it to the playoffs next season, and Eli Morgan comes up with some big innings. We'll talk about it and be like, yeah, this is a little mid-November trade, picked him up for a prospect, and he's pitching big innings.
Yeah, I mean, this is he's kind of like look what the Yankees went out and got Mark Leiter Jr. I almost said Out Leiter Jr. Mark Leiter Jr., similar type of pitcher, similar type of numbers in the sense that he's not going to strike out the world, but he's inducing soft contact. And I think what AJ said was exactly right. Craig Counsell does a good job of understanding that, yes, he is right-handed. He doesn't just go into the right-handed bin. You evaluate the numbers of how you use them against lefties, which is the way that Voter really used them this year, and it kind of fit into that bullpen. So hopefully he's not what Scott said, where he's one of the top 2 relievers for this team, because then you start getting him out of his niche, and does he have as much success if he gets exposed to hitters that he doesn't have as much success against, with that changeup being his predominant pitch.
Okay. So also the Cubs designated Patrick Wisdom for assignment. That's a report from Rogers talking about the trade. So there's one. Let me get to the other one too, because we're going to talk to Pat Murphy soon. The New York Mets acquire Jose Siri. Looks like he'll cost in the $2.5 million range, and he'll replace Harrison Bader, who is costing them a little over $10 million. Different players. I mean, Siri's swing and miss, low on base, low batting average, hits the ball hard as hell, and elite speed athlete guy, right? Bader's a great athlete, but was more of a contact guy these days, and was delivering for the Mets with runners in scoring position and 2 outs. But what do you think about one replacing the other?
My whole thing is, how will he fit in the clubhouse? Because Kratz, Siri is a high energy, super high energy, super, he's got a million handshakes and all that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And that was kind of what we've seen guys with the Rays, that really works well with them. And then some guys go to other places and it doesn't work, and they have to adjust themselves. So how can Siri rein that in to fit in with what the Mets have going on? Not again, it can work because every team needs a guy with the handshakes and does all that. And I'm not saying
the Mets have 90 gimmicks.
They do. That's what I'm saying. But that, to me, that's the biggest thing, is because Siri also rubbed guys the wrong way, and that's not a bad thing. It's someone that did it all the time, right? I get it.
Oh, you mean when he's doing his thing and other teams get pissed off?
Yeah,
I love that.
No, I don't mind it at all. I think it's great. He's playing his game, I just sometimes it's not a great fit with every team, but I think with the Mets and Lindor and some of the guys they have going and what they worked last year, I think it's going to be great. And I think this is a cheaper Harrison Bader with a different skill set, but he's definitely going to up their defense in center field because he's a tremendous outfielder. He
is sick. He's got an elite arm. He's like in all the ratings and the rankings and all of that and the metrics. I mean, he's top of the class. So for range, Kratz, for arm, they might add Soto and be like, hey, let's make up for a below average defender in one of the corners with Jose Siri.
Make up for Soto? Yeah, but can you put Siri in the lineup every day? Can you put him?
No.
So to me, this is kind of like a fourth outfielder type of guy that one of your outfielders goes down. Nimmo wants to play every single day. And so one of your outfielders goes down. This is kind of just a nice pickup for the Mets. I think
way cheaper. Not that they care, but I mean, well, here, can I present
let me ask this question. Yeah. What are the Rays doing?
They're doing what they always do. What do you mean?
Okay. Not only that, but I know we've hit on this.
They got a pitcher that they like from the Mets who's a big strikeout guy.
Yeah.
That's what they
usually
do.
Find those guys. Anybody that trades with the Rays is always like, oh, man.
What you have to do. You pick up the phone, you say, which pitcher do you want? You say, oh, sorry, actually, he's taken.
Yeah. Wait, what
Which
are they
pitcher
seeing?
don't you want?
But I'm not talking about just with this. Like Siri getting traded, who was kind of a big piece for them. But the thing that came out yesterday, which we hit on a little bit, like they might never get their stadium done. Like what's happening? Like what is happening? If you're a Rays fan in the chat, like what is happening on that side of the state? The stadium might not be done in 2028 or ever, they said now, which you've already hit on. The Rays are operating the same way they always operate on. They're trading away some of their better players to get players.
Fans
back.
loved Siri.
They
loved DeRozarena
and
too.
the players love Siri too.
Yeah, but they don't keep anyone. They kept one guy. They kept
Evan
the wrong guy.
Longoria.
And they picked Wander, and they picked the wrong guy. What?
Siri's also 29 years old. He's not like 24, 25 going into his like.
But he's got years of control after it costs nothing.
Yeah, but there's a lifespan for Rays players. They want young. They want not arbitration. Like they don't even want to pay guys in arbitration. So it's just they saw they could get some value, but man, the Mets are like, that Erik kid. We should have kept him. He's probably got a good arm. What were we missing?
Yeah, but this is a good mix for them. So it's Nimmo. Obviously, they're going hard for Soto. And then you'd have the mix of Siri, Starling Marte, Tyrone Taylor. Marte's hurt all the time. He's at the end of his career. Taylor and Siri, you can make a case for outfielders that can complement each other in that spot. So they're building some outfield depth. I'm cool with it.
The question is, if they sign Soto, where does he play? They're going to have to trade someone else.
No.
You're going to sit Marte?
Yeah, he can't play every day. He's going to play half a season at best these days.
Okay.
Yeah, so
right.
It's Nimmo, it's Soto, and then it's that mix.
Yeah, Taylor Siri combo is a great combo.
Yeah,
Taylor and Siri are great outfielders. They both can swing it a little bit. They both have some pop. That's a great combo in center field.
Someone's going to be pissed at the beginning of the year they're not getting as much playing time, and then someone's going to get hurt, and then it'll all work out. So I think they need 5 outfielders that they really feel good about. Pat Murphy, winner, manager of the year, waiting for us. Soto's been meeting with all of the teams. I actually do think, Ken, that this is not going to drag on for a while. I think they've been very efficient picking a day to meet with each particular team, setting up, conversations, and then eventually an offers. So I listened to Fair Territory, of course, from the show that was released yesterday. But adding on, is it as simple as highest bidder wins, and it's likely Steve Cohen?
That is, to me, the most likely scenario. Now, as I said on Fair Territory yesterday, strange things happen in free agency, and you don't always anticipate where a player might go. And I used 2 examples yesterday, too, that I remember most from my career. Albert Pujols to the Angels in 2011 and Zach Greinke to the Diamondbacks in 2015. Those were shocking signings. I don't know that we've had one at that level in recent years. I guess when Semien and Seager went to the Rangers the same day, that was pretty surprising, but it wasn't at that level. So I don't rule out, 1, the Yankees retaining Soto, 2, the field, any other team, may it be the Phillies or any other club, taking a real run and maybe even signing him. But it just seems to me that Scott Boras's goal, Juan Soto's goal, is to get the most money, to make a precedent-setting deal. And that is entirely their right. It's what Soto worked for. It's why he turned down $440 million for 15 years from the Nationals a few years back, to get to the open market and establish his true value. So who's the guy best positioned to give him that? In my view, it's Cohen. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to end up that way, but if I were a betting man, that's the way I would bet.
How do you feel about what the results were last night?
I'm glad you asked, Scott. I actually was surprised by both. I thought Kowser was going to win in the American League, though it was very close, and certainly Luis Gil had a really good case and is a worthy recipient. In the National League, that was the one that really surprised me, because as historic a campaign as Skeens had, as brilliant as he was, and no one can deny what he did, Jackson Merrill, from day one with the Padres, was in his own way equally brilliant. And he did some historic things too, not at the same level maybe as Skeens. So I thought, generally speaking, a voter, at least I'm speaking for myself here, prefers the position player to the pitcher in a circumstance like this. And we can argue, well, should they be grouped together? I don't mind them being grouped together. It's a great discussion. But I was surprised Skeens won a little bit. I thought Merrill was going to take this thing, and Both were great candidates. Actually, Jackson Churio was a great candidate, and in any other year, he might have been the winner. So congratulations to all of them, really. But both outcomes sort of surprised me, I must say.
The winner of National League Manager of the Year in his first year taking over the Milwaukee Brewers is Pat Murphy. Oh, man, he is stylish. Look at him. Once he wins an award, now he looks like Kratz and AJ joining us on FT. Congrats, Murph. What's up, dude? I like the hat.
Yeah, I haven't changed clothes in about 70 hours, so I'm looking forward to, after this is over, taking a shower and, starting to look like an
You're
older
just
man.
grinding away, or what? I mean, why would you?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you've
We have
taken a shower in
kids.
the last 7 minutes, but it was a nice thought. But what do you have to do in the offseason now? You made the playoffs, you won the division, you got Manager of the Year. So now all you do is sit back, eat some bonbons, and put your feet up.
Yeah, that's not quite how it goes, but yeah. You don't seem worthy of knowing the real truth. You know what I mean? Your perspective is so far off.
But I know one thing you're doing.
How did the game go?
What's that?
How did the little man's game go the other day?
They just practiced last night. They have agility today at 1:30, early release at 12, agility 1:30 as a group, and then practice, or we have a game tomorrow night and then a tournament on the weekend.
Agility.
Agility
for
for
10-year-olds.
How old is he?
Isn't that called playground?
No, it's don't become Kratz or AJ. Get some agility.
I was spry. Listen, Murph, I was spry. I'm
Hey,
still spry.
I watched you in
I
high
wanna
school.
start-
Remember that. I watched you in high school.
Exactly.
Remember that.
Where were you then? Because you weren't at Notre Dame yet, and you weren't at Arizona State. So where were you then?
No, I was at part of it. I was at Notre Dame and then transitioned. What year were you? What was your senior year in high school?
1994. I know you weren't at Notre Dame because you followed Maneri at Notre Dame, didn't you?
No, Maneri followed me. I was.
My bad.
I was 94, leaving Notre Dame to go to Arizona State when you were down in Florida, trying to catch.
Oh, trying. That was a good trying.
Okay.
Oh, but listen, if Paul Maneri, I'll say this: if Paul Maneri would have been at Notre Dame my senior year, he was at Air Force Academy at the time. If he would have been at Notre Dame, I would have signed with Notre Dame. He was one of the most impressive human being coaches I ever talked to. So,
Nice.
and he tried to get me to Air Force, but I didn't really fit in the jet very well, so I couldn't go there.
Too big. Hey, Murph,
Cool.
I have a question for you. So let's try and get on track for at least a few minutes of Manager of the Year. So you had a great line that you sent Sal Frelick, right? That was to Sal when he won Gold Glove. And I saw that clip. We ran it on the show. It was epic. It was so good. So you got to give me one or two texts that you've gotten in the past 24 hours from someone that really tried to bring it.
No, I got a lot of texts, I can promise you. Trying to think of some special ones, but Pedroia's always, he's got special texts that I can't repeat. Andrew Friedman sent me a pretty, we got into like me going to Korea, and then he said north or south, and I said, well, at least in North Korea, it's all home games, and he threw out, well, Dennis Rodman could be your bench coach. So it was pretty epic.
I have to go to your bench coach. Because Matt Arnold, when you won it, Matt Arnold texted me right afterwards, and he said, I thought Ricky Weeks was the manager this year.
Oh, Ricky Weeks is a pretty special guy, man. He'll be a manager very soon, I promise you.
What does it mean for you guys to lose out on Walker McKinven? You lose out on part of your staff. I know your whole staff is pieces for you guys to have the success that you have and for you not to miss anything as the head honcho. What does it mean to miss out on him? Because we just talked to Will Venable yesterday, and he's going to be Will Venable's bench coach.
Yeah, I mean, Walker's magnificent. He's been behind the scenes for a long time, and you remember since we put him on the field and put him in the dugout, he's continued to make strides. I mean, he's not that young, but he seems young. He looks young, but he really understands the major league game. He's a ruthless decision maker. He's got a lot of great talents, and I love Will. Being around Will for a year, I love him, and I think that combination is going to be lethal. I think the White Sox are moving in the right direction for sure. It's gonna hurt us. There's no question. Walk only has 9 fingers, so we will be able to get a 10-fingered guy in there. But yeah, it'll be a great challenge to replace him.
Wait, how many coaches have you lost this offseason? Because you lost him. Didn't you lose Quentin
Barry.
Berry? You lost Jason Lane?
No,
Who else? Is there
Lane's
more
still
people
with
that
us.
Lane's still with you?
Yep. Q Berry and Walker, 2 keys, real keys to our deal. I mean, they both were impact coaches.
How come they both left Milwaukee for
almost lost.
Chicago? How come they both
We
left
almost-
Milwaukee for Chicago?
It's close.
Well, I mean, Walker got a bigger position, and Q got a bigger position, and he got the pension, and it's big move, big market, big move, big time coach. Q Berry special.
Murph, you're one of 10, I think, award winners of the managerial award that never played in the big leagues. Does it mean more to you that you never played in the big leagues and you're still able to ascend to just being a manager, let alone winning manager of the year?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, let's be honest. I respect the award, but as we know, the award is a team award, an organizational award, a staff award. So I mean, and the relevance of playing in the big leagues or not, like, I don't know, like there's probably some NBA coaches that didn't. I don't know. There's probably a couple NFL coaches that didn't, that won some Super Bowls. So I think, yeah, I mean, I don't think that really matters, to be quite honest with you, but that's a long time ago. There's a lot of guys doing brain surgery that never had a brain tumor. So, I mean, I don't know.
Okay, I like that analogy. What now? We talked about it earlier. This award is just expectation. If people didn't think the Brewers were going to win, then the manager of the year wins the award. Well, the same thing always happened with Counts when he was there. Craig Counsell was the manager. I think he was second place 4 times. Does that mean people expect even less of you because you finally won it to begin the season?
I don't think. I think Counts not winning it was a victim of a lot of different things because, I mean, we had such great prospects and frontline players, Cy Young winners, that type of thing. You got Woody and Birds on the front end. You got Devin and Hader on the back end. And I think the predictions after the 18 season that you were so critically part of, and I know you want me to bring up, so you understand that the expectation was so much higher. We came into this season and we let go, or we traded Corbin Burnes for 2 unproven players. We had Devin down until at least August. Woodruff was not going to pitch this year, and we all knew it. And we cut the budget $35 million. I mean, nobody expected. I mean, the highest number of wins after we traded Burnes, I think somebody had us at, it was 79 or something like that. So I think that plays into it individually. I think in Counts' case, he obviously should have won. at some point because he's a great manager. Anyway, so I think that's how it goes. And it was just a stroke of our low expectations going into this year.
Murph, did you just say that you're a better manager than Craig Counsell because you did more with less? So he had all these great players that they all were gone. So when you took over, you basically just said you're a better manager than Craig Counsell.
It's
That's
hard
what,
to be
that's
on the
what
show.
Vasallo, that's what Vasallo is going to tweet out. I'm just saying. Don't blame me. That's what Vasallo. He just texted me and said he's going to tweet that out.
Hey, Brawny, I see why
Yeah.
you like being on this show and running the show, because you got two guys on the show that they're not very bright. You know what I'm saying? And it's hard. You know what I'm saying?
Hey,
So you
hey,
look
Murph,
fantastic.
Yeah. Murph, I'm literally dating a neuroscientist, and so it's tough. And then I come into work, and I'm like, oh, I'm actually pretty smart. So you're spot on. This is for
I feel
my
you.
self-esteem.
I feel you.
Yeah.
I feel
Murph,
you.
do you get a trophy? We just asked Hinch this. Do you get a trophy for Manager of the Year?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Because I've Googled it everywhere and I can't find one. So I don't think you get anything for it. So next year when I come into your office and you complain about me being in your office, and then you won't let me leave your office because you're telling some story about how Dustin Pedroia took Jason Kipnis's job or something and he had to leave. I don't know. I fall asleep during
You
them.
can't even
You
follow
can't use
along.
the trophy against me.
You could have not made it at Notre Dame. You couldn't have made it at Notre Dame. Seriously.
Kratz, go.
How bad do you want Willie Adames back at shortstop for you guys?
I mean, I don't think it makes sense. If he comes back, it means he didn't get the deal that he was looking for. And I think I love the kid. I mean, this kid's a gamer. He comes to play every day. And he's a good player, and he's a leader, and he loves the big situation. I don't even think about it, to be honest with you, because he's going to get the deal he wants.
So is Bryce Terang slot in there, and do you think he's matured enough in his game to be able to make a significant transition? I know Mookie Betts kind of dumbs it down, just like, hey, I'm just going to go play shortstop. It's not easy for anybody to just go play big leagues, play shortstop in the big leagues. Do you think he is mature enough in his game decisions and his ability to prepare for the season to be able to slot in there, or do you have other ideas?
Well, I mean, Bryce Terang can easily do it. I say easily. Nobody easily does it, but like you mentioned, he definitely can do it. He's one of the best defenders in the game in the middle. I think it was evidenced by the type of year he had this year. He's growing in confidence. There's nothing that says he can't do it. We've got another young man, Joey Ortiz, who played mostly third, that's very, very capable also. So the decision will be one or the other. My tendency is probably to leave Bryce alone because he's as special as you can see at second base. Like this guy's really special. I don't know if you guys watched any of our games, but if you did, you would have picked up on that.
No, but I didn't see any of your games this year, Murph. Not a single
Well, they
one.
play the same time as the White Sox.
Yeah, not one.
AJ was busy there.
So Kratz doesn't know this. Scott doesn't know this. So on the wall by Murph's office, they have this brick wall, kind of like the brick wall behind us, but with bigger bricks. And all the victories for the whole year, they put a sticker up. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I asked Murph when I went in there, you swept the White Sox, I think. But right when you walk in, the White Sox, it's like versus White Sox, versus like both sides, like eye level for me.
Sure.
And I asked Murph, I said, Murph, did you do that on purpose? And then you change them when I'm not here? He's like, I thought they beat us 2 out of 3 or whatever. I don't know. He had some excuse.
I remember that. I thought we talked about that.
Did we talk about that? But I feel like
did.
he did that on purpose. So he put the White Sox losses right in front of my face.
Well, there was some thought there.
Yeah, that was strategic. All right, I got a quick hitter on 2 other guys. Okay, one, how's Brandon Woodruff doing? 'Cause he comes on the show all the time. We give him a little space, obviously, so he can get himself going. He can come on and be like, "Yo, here's where I'm at. I'm ready to go." So quick. I mean, first on him, we progressing to spring training. He's going to be good to go and give you 200 innings next season.
No. You guys have experienced shoulder injuries, and those shoulder innings are difficult. So We're not going to push him along. Woody's nature is to say, yes, I'm going to throw 200 innings, but we've got to be smart with it. Those shoulder injuries are significant, and coming back from them, trying to regain their form. And then a pitcher who's pitched like Woody, who maybe doesn't come back at 98 with that angry fastball, then he has to kind of develop and change how he pitches a little bit because the 98's not there. And that whole transition and everything else takes a lot. This will be a real, difficult transition for him. It has been for every other shoulder injury pitchers. You do the research, you find out that it takes a while.
And then I don't think we had you since the postseason. So have you spoken to Devin Williams, and how does somebody feel when you can't? He's like, oh, I can make up for this the next day, but you got to wait until spring training. And also, right. I mean, let's be real. There's a chance that it ends up being with another ball club.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think Devin, he's had enough success. You think about it. He's been arguably the best reliever in baseball for 3 years, or pretty close. You could make an argument. He's been reliever of the year twice. We all know how those individual award votings go. You never know. And sometimes the winner isn't that exactly the best at that. But Devin's been so special. I don't think you're not gonna shake him that much. It was devastating one inning, but I think he'll be back on track. I hope it's with the Brewers, and but I understand the dynamics of where we're at with that whole thing. We have a certain way of operating that has been successful, and I trust our front office. And yeah, but and at the same rate, I hope Devin's with us somehow. We can make it work.
Murph, what's your sweatshirt? What's your hoodie?
200 Club.
Which is what?
You're gonna have to look it up, man. You're gonna have to look it up.
There's a lot of.
I don't know how to use the internet. I didn't go to Notre Dame. Remember?
Yeah. I'm gonna show him how to use.
I'm
the
aware
internet.
of that.
Yeah. See, this is again playing. Murph, you're spot on. I come in.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
200clubstudio.com. 200clubstudio.com.
Okay.
Check it out. We'll definitely check it out.
Google it right now. How do you spell club?
You give the players a hard time. You just said the front office. Do you ever use any of your dry humor and sarcasm with the front office, or are you buttoned up Murph when it comes to those guys?
I do. No, I'm never buttoned up Murph. That's not happened yet. But yeah, I give them all nicknames. I make them come to spring training, and they all have nicknames, and yeah, they wear it pretty good. They talk to me about the analytics and this model they have, and I tell them, just like cars, these models get old and we throw them out. So, and a lot of times the models break. So I badger them pretty good. You'd be proud of me, Kratzy.
I'm good. That's good. I am proud of you. Congrats on the award.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
whatever you're doing, it's working. In all seriousness, because I mean these segments are epic, but I mean you took over first year here, you cruised through the division. I know you didn't get where you wanted in the playoffs, but only one team wins. You guys have a lot of promise for the future, and you won Manager of the Year, whether you like it or not. So congratulations, Murph. It's awesome, man.
Well, I can't wait to hear your speech. You got to give a speech.
Oh yeah, he does.
Speech.
January.
Yeah.
January.
About winning Manager of the Year, and you got to inspire me.
About being you.
Yeah.
200 Club. About the 200 Club. We'll figure out what it is.
I mean, it's almost Thanksgiving. How do we not ask you about the first Thanksgiving? Like you could have told us all about how the first Thanksgiving that ever happened went down.
See, Ronnie, you are so lucky. You know what I mean?
I am. I
mean, it's like Council said, it's going to be a relentless offseason for them this year, Murph. It's going to be tough for them to catch you guys.
Yeah, relentless to
did that on purpose. He did that on purpose. Did you see what he did? You see the comment he made? He said, it's daunting knowing that we use the term undaunted. He said it's daunting just to stick us a little bit. And telling his owners, we're so far away. Like, yeah, you got Steele, Imanaga, Tyon. You're so far away.
It's good. It's good. Hey, well, we'll try and make sure Fox has as many games
Yes.
with the Brewers so that AJ can just stop by every Saturday and hang out with you. So you can also feel much smarter if you sit next to him for 20 minutes. It's going to be awesome.
Well, that'd be great.
Thank you,
Bronny,
Mark.
you're growing a little gruff. You're growing a little scruffy stuff out there. What are we doing here?
I
You're
actually
kind of
just,
the buttoned up. You're the button
yeah.
up. Don't morph into them.
No. I've had this though for a few years. I keep it tight though. Nothing grisly, nothing out of control. Just
You
keep it
have?
tight. So yeah, I have. I actually have. I
He
mean,
doesn't have the gray yet.
you know,
That's the
Murph,
problem.
when I was at MLB, back when I was working for MLB, I tried it. And then at one point, a big executive came over and said no. So I got rid of it. But then I was like, all right, once I'm on my own one day, I'm going to have a little bit. So I look, 28 and not
I
12.
like it.
Thank you. Yeah. So I'll
You got
ride
a
it
little.
for now.
There's a twinge. There's half Nomar Garcia Parra, half. I'm trying to
Joe
think who
Dirt?
the other person.
Joe
No,
Dirt?
not Joe Dirt.
Hey,
A
Murph,
little
he gone.
Nomar.
Hey, I'll take Nomar all day. See you, Murph. You're the best. All right, that was awesome as always. It's one of the best segments we do. Murph is just so good. If you're in the chat,
producer lady just cut him straight off.
eventually you got to get to your next guest, and he is ready a little early because he's always on time, and always on time means always early. He's one of the first guys always to the ballpark when he's covering a game. That's true. So Jim Bowden's going to join us, friend of mine for a long time, in a few minutes. So if you have any questions, hard hitting, free agency, hot stovey kind of questions, we'll take them. We've got plenty of our own. Okay. But I learned a lot there with Murph just now. Actually gave us some good answers. Like, how often do you hear that? Hey, do you want Adames back? No, because if he's back, that means he didn't get the deal he wants, and I want him to get the deal he wants. That's next level answering right there. You don't get that. I mean, Kratz, what's the classic answer you get from most managers in that case? Yeah, he's a great guy. I don't know what
We're
happens.
gonna move
Go ahead.
on. We have our hopes and dreams as a team. He was just real with the answer. Of course he wants him back. But he also wants him. That shows how much he cares about Willy Adames and his players as people, because he wants Willy to get the best contract that he can get. And I truly believe that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. He's seen what he's done for a while, because obviously Murph was the bench coach before he was the big man in the dugout, and you can't miss Adames. If you cover the Brewers and you're around the dugout and you hear, yelling and excitement and someone's jumping in the dugout, it's probably Adames. He's a burst of energy every day. He's consistent. He's not annoying. If that makes sense. There's some guys that are like so much that sometimes people are like, oh, he's annoying. He's not annoying. He's just nonstop. Like, he's got a motor, and apparently it motivates people a lot too. So anyway, it's cool. We'll talk plenty about Adames, I'm sure, coming up. Maybe we'll ask Jim Bowden about where he thinks Adames is going to end up. Bowden in 30 seconds. Here we go. Back with Jim Bowden, former big league GM for the Reds and the Nationals, 16 plus years, executive of the year. He's all over the place. You can watch him on CBS Sports, read his work in The Athletic, plenty of fresh articles out there, and listen to him like I do on SiriusXM, including every Sunday, The Front Office, the award-winning show. Jim, great to have you on, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Scott, AJ, Erik, great to be back with you guys.
Yes, you too. All right, so I want to get right to one of the heavy hitters, because I've heard you talk about this topic, and I think it's fascinating. Roki Sasaki, and a lot of our fans want the juice. They're like, wait, Jim Bowden is saying there's a chance that he doesn't end up with the Dodgers. So can you lay out why you think there's a chance that he doesn't go there, and then we'll see what our guys think about it.
Yeah, I mean, look, Scott, it was really interesting during the playoffs and the World Series because everywhere I went, everyone had this narrative that Sasaki was going to be a Dodger because of his relationship with Shohei Ohtani and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. And, you know, the Dodgers go on to win the World Series, and everyone's going to basically be on the same playing field when it comes to salary bidding for him because he's under 25 years old. And that narrative was there. But, you know, when you start to dig and you do the research, you know, he's represented by the Wasserman Agency, and you do your homework in Japan on what he's telling teammates there in Japan. And when the homework came back, the one thing that I didn't really understand at the time was the fact that the income he's going to have to make between the time that he signs and the 3 years it takes for salary arbitration, the 6 years it takes to free agency, his income is going to come mostly from endorsements. That's where it's going to come from. And what we've learned is that it's really hard to get those endorsements if you're on the same team as Shohei Ohtani. And that's something that Yamamoto has learned since then. In fact, Kodai Senga has more endorsements than Yamamoto does, being in his shadow. We also understand that, you know, Sasaki wants to be in a place where he can be the guy to get those endorsements back in Japan. So, look, I've done a lot of homework. I've listened to a lot of people that are close to him. It's very evident that Yu Darvish has a huge influence on him. He calls him his godfather, and that puts San Diego in the mix. But, you know, teams like the Mets and the Red Sox that have big markets where he can be a huge name are just as likely to land Sasaki as the Dodgers, based on the intel I've gotten from people that know.
Quick issue, JB. Maybe we'll step aside for 1 minute because we're getting the mic. It's not coming through the mic. They said it was okay. I'm texting with the producer here right now. So maybe can we bring him right back in a minute? Thank you. We're gonna fix JB real quick.
I have so many questions about what he just said, and I want him to hurry back because there are a lot of questions
Roki?
about Sasaki because
I don't even want you to say them because I want to get the natural reaction.
There's a few questions I have about some of the stuff he said.
Okay.
So I mean, hopefully
I like how he hit where he came up with his answer. He was like, talk to his ex-teammates from Japan, the Wasserman Group, who they deal with, all that stuff. I think it's good.
But an agent never influences where a player ends up. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm working on his mic, so you guys talk amongst yourselves.
Well, first of all, I love that everyone in the chat is wondering who the producer lady is. So Claudia, figure it out. But other than that, I mean, listen, Sasaki to me, he listed, and we're going to get into it. He listed that the most likely destination for him, Kratz, was Boston. But is what I want to know is Boston the place because he's not going to cost them a ton of money up front and they don't have to shell out a lot of money to get him. And that's why he thinks Boston is the opportunity. But they have another Japanese guy on their team in Yoshida. They've had Japanese guys before in Matsuzaka, and they've had a ton of them. I mean, Nomo, they've had a bunch of Japanese guys. Koji Uehara was there for a long time. He was awesome, by the way. Great teammate. So I don't know. It seems like, to me, this is the one guy that Boston can really pursue because it's not going to cost him a lot.
I think it's going to not be about the money in the sense every team wants him, but maybe they're able to make that presentation. We said, what team can make a presentation to a pitcher? And you look at what the Red Sox did with Cutter Crawford, with Nick Pivetta, and their analytics or whatever drove them to have this success that they had in different parts of the year might intrigue them. It might intrigue them to the sense that, hey, you know what? I'd love to be there.
All right, let's try. JB, you back?
Yes, I pivoted. I went to plan B, so hopefully this works.
Boom. It does. It works. Much better. Okay, so let's get right back to it. You want to queue up your first?
Yeah. So my question is the reason that you picked the Red Sox on your top 10 free agents and where they're headed. You picked the Red Sox room. Is it because they won't have to fully outbid other teams? It's not the money up front. It's more about the pitch that they can give to them. They can say, "Hey, you're our first big Japanese guy since whether it's Daisuke or whether it's
Pitcher.
Koji. I know they have
They
Yoshida.
have Yoshida.
Yes, but Yoshida has turned into, just another guy. He's not the superstar they thought he was. This guy's supposed to be the next superstar. So then they say, you'll be the next Daisuke, you'll be the next Koji, and we can offer you these endorsements on the East Coast, whereas everyone on the West Coast is splitting them up because a lot of the Japanese guys end up on the West Coast.
Yeah, so all of that. And first of all, the article you're referring to in The Athletic, these are not predictions of where I think they're going to land, because I really don't know where any of these guys for sure are going to land. I just played matchmaker to have fun, and I put the top 10 free agents in places that I think is good for the player and good for the team where it makes sense. So that's what I did in the article. In terms of Sasaki, yeah, I love the fit with the Red Sox, and part of the reason I love the fit is I believe their farm system right now, in my opinion, is the best in baseball. I feel like they have 4 players that next year will be able to go into the everyday lineup for the Red Sox and develop into all-star caliber players. So that gives the Red Sox a lot of flexibility going forward financially, and whether that be to sign free agents or to trade prospects to get more talent, they're just in a very strong position for that. They really don't have a face of the franchise as much as I want Rafael Devers to be that. He's not. As much as Jarren Duran could be, he's not. Sasaki could be that. The Red Sox also need a top-of-the-rotation ace that they can build around long-term. And if you're Sasaki's people, remember, the endorsements you're going to get are not coming from the team. It's not coming from Major League Baseball. It's coming from companies in Japan. And so if Sasaki is sitting there on the East Coast, as you pointed out, AJ, and I agree with it, I think if the player is in New York or in Boston or in Philadelphia for that matter, I think there's a huge opportunity financially. Now, I also could argue that San Diego could work because you could build a rivalry of Sasaki versus Ohtani, and that might play in endorsements as well, but that was part of my thinking.
Okay, so with all that being said, JB, there's a lot of people that have, even me included, 80, 90% chance that he goes to the Dodgers. I'm not as plugged in on the business side as you are. What do you put the percentage chance that he ends up with a non-Dodgers team at? And also, do you think that there's any way the Dodgers can convince him that being with 2 legends, especially one right now, obviously worldwide, in Ohtani, will overrule all of that?
I mean, look, I'm just telling you what I learned in talking to a lot of people that are in the know with the player himself, who, by the way, is going to make the decision. He's not one of those players that's going to go where Wasserman and Joe Wolf, his agent, are going to send him. He's going to make his own call. But the sense I get from everyone is that the narrative of him going to the Dodgers, it's way more likely he signs elsewhere than he signs there. And I'm not saying at the end of the day, perhaps he changes his mind. Perhaps Ohtani and Yamamoto can convince him. But if based on what I'm hearing, I would say 85% chance he does not sign with the Dodgers.
Who has more capital? And when I say capital, I mean it in the broad sense of the word. The Mets, everybody knows Stevie Cohen is, writing blank checks. I guess you don't write on a blank check. You just rip out a blank check. So who has more capital, the Mets or the Orioles? Because I heard somebody say that Jackson Holliday, when he was a prospect, is worth $112 million in the prospect, algorithm. So who has more capital? A team with a ton of prospects that everyone thinks are going to go well, or a team with a ton of cash?
I mean, that's a great question. I mean, look, I would prefer to have the team that has the most talent and an owner that's willing to spend to augment that. To answer your question, the thing about Steve Cohen is, I do believe that he will make the biggest offer to Juan Soto, the most amount of money I think he's going to get from the Mets. And then there'll be a question if the Yankees or Dodgers are willing to match it. The Orioles ownership isn't going to play on a Soto at that kind of money. I think they'll get outbid for Burnes as an example there. But to me, it's all about talent. And, you don't really win championships on free agency. You win championship more often than not, building a strong farm system, making key trades, and then adding the free agents as the final pieces. Let Ohtani and Yamamoto be the final piece to win that world championship. So in terms of capital, I mean, look, I don't think there's any question. Financially, it's the Mets. Talent-wise, I would say it's Red Sox, Orioles.
JB, what do you think about Soto and his situation? I mean, to me, it seemed clear that he's going for the most money, but Do you feel like that's just a ploy to get to where he wants to go and still get the most money?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is Juan Soto's call, right? If it's me, I'm a Dodger. It's over. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to play with Betts, Ohtani, and Freeman, and I'm going to win as many world championships as I can. And if I have to leave 30 or 40 million on the table, I'm fine with that. I want to go to LA. I want to win. I want to sit there and live on the ocean in Malibu and have another home in Pasadena close to the ballpark, and that's where I'm going. But, in the case of Juan and his agent, Scott Boras, I am 100% convinced most money, most dollars, most years, that's what's getting Soto. So the question becomes, who is willing to match the best offer Steve Cohen's willing to put out there? Because like Yamamoto, I expect he's going to do something absurd like Peter McGowan did when he signed Barry Bonds back in the day. And I assume that it's going to be a question of where does Juan want to go. If he wants to go back to the Yankees and Hal Steinbrenner is willing to match or beat the final offer by a buck, I think there's a chance he goes back there. If Mark Walter and Dave Roberts and Andrew Freeman with the Dodgers say we're going to do the same thing with Yamamoto, we'll match what's ever there, I think the Dodgers have a chance here. I'm going to be surprised if it's one of the other three teams. I know the Phillies are making their run. I get it. I'm not going to be surprised if the Blue Jays end up with the second best offer on the table. So, look, there's other teams, I get it, that are going to be there. For me, I'll be surprised if he's not a Met, Yankee, or Dodger, and I'd probably put it in that order for him. Although for me, I would be Dodgers, Yankees, Mets.
Okay, if he signs with the Dodgers, like let's say he decides to go to the Dodgers and they put those four together, is it good or bad for baseball? Because there's a lot of people online and on Twitter and social media saying this would be the worst thing ever if Juan Soto ends up with the Dodgers. Is it bad for baseball if they're basically putting together the Avengers at that point? Is that bad or good for baseball?
I mean, I like superstar teams. I love going to the All-Star game every year. I'm okay. I mean, if I'm a Dodger fan, I'm pumped. Sure, I want Juan Soto there. I think the question the Dodgers have to ask is halfway through this contract, are you going to be able to deal with his lack of defensive ability in the outfield? Because you can't DH him if you have Ohtani signed as well. And baseball-wise, I think that's a little bit of a question there. But I can tell you, if I'm running the Dodgers and my owner, Mark Walter, says you can go there, we can commit $622 million over 15 years. I'm signing him. I'm putting him in right field. Betts moves into second. I sign Willie Adames to play shortstop, and I'm going to go win back-to-back World Series, maybe create a dynasty. Let's go. Is it bad for baseball? If I'm in a small market, sure. If I'm in a middle market, sure. But if I'm in a big market, I want teams to try to put the best team they can on the field. And if somebody can afford to do it, I'm okay with it.
Hey, JB, question for you about the state of the game and where we're at with certain teams changing, owners basically, right? So the Twins are for sale right now. That was put out by them. We've seen a recent transition with the Baltimore Orioles. This is the first offseason for the new ownership group, betting that they're going to spend a little more than they have in the past. How much of a positive is most of this turnover for baseball in your mind? I've spoken to many people in Minnesota about the last year and how it played out, in addition to the collapse, how they significantly scaled down payroll. Obviously, part of that was to show the books look really nice for the sale. But how much of a positive is it to bring people that want to treat it more like a toy and a long-term business versus, a short-term investment?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. Normally ownerships are changes are a good thing for teams because normally the new ownership group comes in, they have more money than the people that are selling. They understand the business they're getting into. They treat it more like a hobby than a business. They do the best they can to win. They do the best they can to maximize revenues, but there's exceptions. The new ownership in Miami has been a complete disaster. That has not been good for baseball. So there are exceptions, and you never know what owners are going to do until they get into the position and start acting like an owner. So, I don't know for sure what the Orioles ownership's going to do this winter. I think they're going to spend. I'm not sure if the new ownership and the Twins are going to invest more in the team. But I like to think when there's ownership changes, it's usually better for baseball. It's just not always the case.
I got one more for you. So of all of the writing you've done, of all the talking you've done already so far this offseason, what's the move you feel really good about? It could be either a prediction you think is definitely going to happen or just something you think a team should absolutely do. Like one move for one team. They need to sign this player. They need to trade for this player. What's one you really like?
I mean, I think the Baltimore Orioles have to get their ace. I mean, you can't, if Burnes is going to leave, I think you have to go get Max Fried. I think it's really disheartening. There's two teams that I think it's really disheartening: the Orioles and the Mariners. For the Orioles to build that kind of position player talent and not spend enough time and effort building a starting rotation and a deeper bullpen is a shame, because their window to win a world championship, you'll be surprised how fast that can close. And for the Seattle Mariners to not go get more offense, they have the best starting rotation 1-5 in the entire sport. And yet they continue to strike out more than any team in baseball. They don't put enough emphasis on putting the ball in play, being athletic, hitting home runs. They just don't score enough runs. It is one of the hardest things in baseball to do, is to build that rotation, and then to not be a playoff team because you're not caring enough about the offense. So I would say the Orioles rotation and the Mariners offense are the two things that have to get done for those two franchises as winner.
You talk about the Orioles. Is it hard for someone like Mike Elias, and you can't answer for him, but as an ex-GM, is it hard to constantly be like prospect, hoard? And then when it comes time to win and use this, is it hard to go outside of that and be like, yeah, but I have all these prospects. I don't want any of them to leave. Look what just happened to Joey Ortiz. He was a Rookie of the Year candidate till later in the season. Like, is that hard to make that transition?
Erik, it's a great question, and it is hard. I've been there. I understand it's difficult, because when you draft and develop, they become family to you, and you want them to win and succeed, and you want to win a championship with them. But there's two different jobs here, right? One job is collecting the talent, whether it be through the draft, international signings, trades, free agency. You could put all the talent together, but that's not the job of a GM. You know, I've said it a long time, you know, the job isn't to win trades or win a pick. It's to win world championships, putting a team together that wins. And I understand in Baltimore, you don't want to trade Kobe Mayo. You don't want to trade Jackson Holiday. You don't want to trade Colton Cowser or Heston Kjerstad or great. But do you want to win? Like, talent is great, but if you're going to have that much talent, you got to find a way to build a championship caliber team. You got to have a team that can pitch and play defense and put the ball in play and win baseball games. And, you know, a lot of times it takes a GM years to learn it. I've had conversations with both Theo Epstein, the former 3-time world champion of the Red Sox and Cubs, and Alex Anthopoulos, who's won a world championship in Atlanta and been executive year in both leagues. I've talked to guys like Pat Gillick and John Schultz, who are Hall of Famers. And you have to learn quickly. It's okay if you make a bad trade or a bad draft pick, but you can't get personal with your players. You can't fall in love with a player and just say, well, I can't trade him. We drafted him. We're building all this. You can't be afraid to trade your best assets. You know, one thing that Billy Beane always did in his years in Oakland, he was never afraid to trade his best prospect or his best player if it meant putting the best team on the field you possibly can do. Mike Elias has to learn that, and he has to learn it fast if he wants to bring another world championship to Baltimore.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, the window is right now. So, JB, awesome to have you on. Enjoy the offseason. Obviously, we'll get to you again at some point this winter, and appreciate the time, and good to see you.
We'll see you guys at the winter meetings.
Yes, sounds good. Appreciate you, JB. Check them out in The Athletic, the article. Listen to them on Sirius. Watch them on CBS Sports. Be right back. All right, questions. Dave said, Teoscar and Adames over Soto for the same money. Nope, not going to be the same money on the overall deal, but maybe on a per season basis, yes, right? Let's say Teoscar Hernandez gets 20-ish and Adames gets 25-ish. Actually, yeah, that's about it, right?
Yeah.
On your overall books. But also, that's two players
instead of one. That's what a lot of teams do, though. They don't want the big one player. If you spend $50 million on Soto per year, you maybe get 3 players for that. 120, 15, or 2 15s, which equals 3 players. See?
But my thing is, if you're saying like Teo and Adames, their production together equals Soto, I'm like, well, then you could have Soto and another player to equal more production.
True.
Sometimes people will be like, well, you can get these 3 players instead in free agency, and their offense equals his offense. It's like, That's not how it works.
No, I agree. I'm just saying it's more for me about the money. If you
Yeah.
if you think you can find 3 players that'll help you win
Sure.
over the 1 player for the same amount of money, then I think you go for the 3 players. If you think they can help you win more than 1 guy. Now, if you're the Yankees and you just needed Juan Soto like they did last year, you go get Juan Soto. Got him to the World Series. They didn't win it, but they got him there.
Yeah, sometimes teams try to get cute and they'll say, hey, we got $30-something million to spend. This actually happened not during this current front office regime, but at one point with the Angels. They spent like 35-ish for the one season, and it was Cody Allen. I think it was Harvey. It was a bunch of dudes, and it was like 6 guys, and none of them worked out. You could go to the Red Sox one of the years that they won when it was the Shane Victorino year, and they picked up all those. Do you remember that year?
That was the year
all
just they were winning. It was the bomb year. They were winning that year.
I know, but they still did a nice job.
They got Napoli, Dempster.
They spread it out,
Victorino.
and those players contributed.
A lot.
But sometimes you can spread it out, and the reason that those players all cost less is because they're not as good. So if you got Soto this past season, it worked out pretty damn well for the Yankees, and I still think a lot of teams, Kratz, should be kicking themselves over not going after Soto last year.
Easy. Seattle, number 1 on the list. Baltimore, if they never win anything with these prospects, number 2 on the list. That's it.
Toronto?
Didn't have as many prospects to give up, but
True.
Fair. That's
True.
fair.
No, your point's fair too, though. Their farm system is not as shiny. It's ranked pretty low right now, which is why there are a lot of people making a case for them to rebuild. And I think the reason they're probably not is a front office hot seat. Free agent fits. I like the end when Pete's like, "Thank you, Mets fans, but I'm putting on an Astros hat." Of course, we're just trying to, get you all excited. But let's go over a free agent fit of the day. Corbin Burnes was a Baltimore Oriole for a season. Prior was a Milwaukee Brewer for a minute. In 2025, he will be a.
You're asking me first?
Yeah.
I'm going he's going to be a Giant. And I have no reason to say this other than the Giants need to sign somebody, and I think he'd be a nice fit. They're losing Snell more than likely. They need a starting pitcher, and he would look nice next to Logan Webb and Robbie Ray when he comes back and some of their young guys. So I think he would look – plus he already wore the orange and black. He thinks it's Halloween every day, so he can just move on right on over to San Francisco.
Think they'll pay him?
I mean, I think they'll give him a short-term deal.
He doesn't want a short-term deal.
I know, but I'm just saying, what if there's not a long-term deal
Are you
out
asking me to role play as his agent? Because I will. Don't
No,
start.
I'm not asking you. Don't be Scott Boras.
Well, don't worry. I'm not even answering if it's a 3. If you're throwing some
I'm just
3-year
saying
crap my way.
That's what we said about Blake Snell, and look where he ended up. San Francisco on a 1-year deal with an opt-out.
True.
So I think they might come to him if things don't materialize the way Corbin wants. They say, how about a 3-year 100 with an opt-out after the first year?
Okay. Erik?
The Braves. The Braves are going to most likely lose Charlie Morton, who's the kind of the veteran of the staff, and most likely going to lose Max Fried, who is the ace of the staff. Strider's not going to be back until, maybe a little bit into the season, and they are set up not as nice as the Dodgers. Maybe they can, the future looks incredible with all these guys. Like, hey, you want to sign a 7-year deal? You can play with all these guys for the next 7 years because they're all signed for 7 years except for Acuna. So to me, the Braves get them. They haven't really dipped into the free agent market. They've done a lot of extensions. They couldn't extend Max Fried, so I assume he's gone. And Corbin Burnes for the next 7 years will be a Brave and will love living down in Atlanta.
No chance.
They have Sale. You said Fried is already Sale's race. He's going to win the Cy Young night, and he's coming on tomorrow. So let's not forget
Sale's
about
race.
Yeah, but also
That's
no
not it.
chance.
No chance he goes there.
So they weren't going to pay Max Fried, and they're going to pay way more for Corbin Burnes?
Different pitcher.
I agree.
Different right-hand-
I'd rather have Burnes than Fried.
They were going to pay Aaron Nola. What do
Good
you think Fried's going to get? 170? 180?
Fried?
Yeah.
Yeah, at least in the
They
mid
offered
hundreds,
Nola the
probably
same
even
thing.
50 maybe. Yeah, but I think Corbin Burnes, I think is getting a 200 plus
I
easy. And you
I
think the
agree. I
Braves
think
will
he's
go there?
I
don't
think he's
know.
257. They haven't gone there with anybody yet. Chris Sale, what does he have? 2 more years on his contract when he sent that extension in?
Yeah, I think
No
so.
team is better set up to convince somebody we're going to win for a while here, and you don't have to join the Dodgers to do it.
Phillies.
Yeah,
Okay.
they don't need him though.
But I don't think
that's not
they're
where
going
they're
to
going
get
to
into that.
allocate cash.
I mean, the Phillies are
isn't
pretty
the
well
Mets the most
positioned for a while
obvious?
too, though.
Yeah, to me, I have the Mets signing Corbin Burnes and Sean Manaea for sure in that rotation. I think. I mean, who's to know, right? Maybe their analysis is that's not their favorite guy, but if it is,
I don't know. He's an interesting case to me because he's a little bit older, right?
Is he?
Yeah, I mean he's 30, right? 30 years old. So he's a little bit older than some of the guys that get long-term deals, but he reminds me of what happened with Blake Snell last year. I know just the way it went out. I mean, Corbin Burnes has a Cy Young. Blake Snell had 2. Blake Snell was just looking for this massive deal, and it never materialized.
He's a young 30.
There's been no up and down with Burnes though. Snell's been like Cy Young, okay year. Cy Young, well, I guess he did the Cy Young in his platform year, but I just feel like Burnes has been
32 starts, 33 starts,
yeah.
28 starts in 21. Obviously, before that, he was kind of bouncing.
Well, 21 is the reason
around.
the Brewers didn't make the playoffs because he missed time, wasn't it, that year?
Right.
He didn't pitch well in August.
Yeah, they were like, you had a few bad starts, so boom, arbitration penalty. Anyway, that's our list. Let us know what you think. If you're watching this afterward, comment below. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're yelling at your television screen right now, then maybe send us a note on social media and let us know where you think Corbin Burnes will go. Who can afford him? Where would he want to go? We've got San Francisco and Atlanta, along with the Mets on the board. And some people are probably going to be like, Scott, the Mets can't sign everyone. I'm not saying that. I've got 3 or 4 players for them. So bug off. So let's look back at some big, no sweat win total dubs. And since Pat Murphy led his team to the postseason and a cruise control National League Central, here were the win totals. It opened up last winter for the Brewers at 78.5. It went down, I'm sure for Burnes is probably the reason why it ended up going down to 76.5, plus the Devin Williams injury for half the year. And they cleared that by what? Probably
16 wins.
Probably mid-August, late August.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so a 93 win team surpassing the 76.5 number. And that is why win totals, in my mind, are some of the most fun and can be some of the most lucrative bets.
If you get the right ones. I mean, there was a couple that we picked last year that were pretty easy, and we hit them. Arizona was one. Milwaukee was one. There was a couple of Royals, I think, were one that we all jumped on pretty heavy.
White Sox.
Kratz and I,
White Sox under.
Well, Kratz and I, we went hard.
White Sox were like 60-something, and they won 41.
We went hard on them having the worst record in baseball at plus 500. So again, you're going to say, oh, you probably got some wrong. We probably did. I'll go back and do some homework. But
the Reds were the one I think we all missed.
Yeah, we missed.
Because the Reds were like around 83-ish.
Yeah.
I think we all thought they were – because a lot of us thought they'd be in the playoffs, and they did not.
When McClain went down, I changed my tone.
And Marte got popped.
Marte got popped, and he ain't the same. So
Marte got popped and lost his pop.
He lost his pop. Hey, it happens to the best of them. The best of the roid guys. All right, bonus code's FOUL, F-O-U-L, up to $1,500 paid back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet when you sign up on the BetMGM Sportsbook account, app, or website. And if the bet loses, your bonus bets will be available once your initial wager is settled. Gambling problem or concern, call 1-800-GAMBLER. And Todd Father tomorrow on our show as well as on The Growler. He'll be there at night if you want to say hi to him in person. They're going to re-air that derby. Then they're going to have a talk about it afterward at around 7 o'clock Eastern, a little meet and greet. If you want to get something signed from Todd Father, it's at the BetMGM Sportsbook and Nation Kitchen and Bar at the Banks. Good food, good drinks if you're of age. and play some bets on some foosball because it's Thursday tomorrow. Yes, it is. So go hang out with Todd Father if you're in the Cincinnati area, and he'll be on the show tomorrow. And we'll be back in a few seconds to go over the Dodgers talking smack.
Yeah, that's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
So the Dodgers are having a good time after winning the World Series. This is what you do. You have to hold back. Many players hold back all year long for a variety of reasons, including they don't want to give bulletin board material. But when you win a World Series, it's like, screw it. Let's have some fun. So Mookie Betts has the podcast where he brought on a bunch of friends, and Chris Taylor decided to pile on. Here's what he said.
I want to hear from you, your perspective on the fifth inning, kind of how your emotions, the roller coaster you were on.
Yeah, no, I mean, everybody saw it, right? So to me, I mean, we're all kind of thinking it. They kind of shut down their leg, right? You know, they were pressing, like it was like one thing after the next. So I think our energy in the dugout was kind of feeding off that. It was like, all we got to do is put the ball in play right, you know? Like, and,
yeah, it's a fact.
And we knew the big hit was going to come at some point, you know? So it's sort of just passing the baton to the next guy. And, and then after Teo hit that double, and I feel like the whole momentum, everything just shifted, and we all kind of knew. And then even after they scored one, like, I don't think anybody was worried.
Yeah, we didn't blink an eye at that.
Yeah, we knew we had it.
Yeah.
Like that?
It's piling on at this point.
Yeah, but I mean,
if Joe Kelly hadn't said anything,
why is he the only one that gets to?
But if he hadn't said anything, would anyone else have said anything?
Yeah, but this is all recorded at the same time. They're just
but
releasing it.
Kelly was a different time. These are different shows and interviews. No, this is all different. It's not all the same. It's not like we're going, hey, each week we're gonna release a different Dodger roasting the Yankees. No, these are different.
I thought his whole thing was when this whole thing happened was when Dave Roberts did his and Joe Kelly did his on the same day, because they're all still wearing their hats from the parade. And they're all a little,
Yeah, you're right. I don't know exactly
but
when
Kelly
it was,
wasn't with
that
Mookie
was the
when
party
he did
at
his.
Mookie's
Kelly was on a
house.
podcast.
No, Kelly was a separate show.
Kelly was completely
that
separate.
was my point.
Doc was with Mookie.
Yeah, I'm not keeping up with.
But it's just funny to me, like they all kind of said these things. I mean, listen, you don't want to jinx yourself, but the best team won. Just the best team won. That's it. The best team won. The best team was the Dodgers, and the Dodgers won.
Yeah, but I think it's fun. I mean, if you were in their case, you would have said, yeah, the Yankees, we got to put the ball in play, which is something you did well. And be like, yeah, I knew I got to make contact, and they might mess up because they're not a good fundamentally sound team.
AJ, do you still remember your playoff runs? Do you still remember, like, randomly scouting reports on the players that you were facing? Like, guys that, like, you're like, okay, there's no reason I should still remember that. No, because to me, all these guys, they clearly are. You know, it's very recent, but they were all on the same page. The pregame scouting meetings are a little bit different in the playoffs. Like they're ingrained in you a little bit differently. So, I mean, yes, Chris Taylor said this. Yes, Max said this. Yes, Joe Kelly said this. But they're not all just like, hey, we should talk about this after since we won. This is exactly what was going on for 5 games, the 3 days before the World Series started, when they talked about, their pregame scouting, their scouting stuff. It was just drilled into their minds, so that's why everybody keeps repeating it.
No, sorry. I don't remember any of that stuff.
Oh, well, that's a shame because we're doing a 2-hour scouting report special.
You guys have a great time.
Dig back to all of the great scouting reports.
I honestly, because first of all, here's another thing. When I first came up, our scouting report was Inside Edge, and they would literally our pitching coach would read it off. I mean, I didn't even get a copy of it, so I just listened, and I'm like, oh, high, up and in, down and away. Don't pitch around them. Don't give me anything good to hit. Let's go, boys. Let's see how it works out.
Times have changed.
I mean, as things got more and more in depth, yes, I get it. And I mean, did I change the way I went about it? 100%. But in the playoffs, I was so locked into the playoffs at that point. Like I don't even remember what they said, because I just remember being locked into what we had to do and what our pitchers had to do and what our guys had to do. That the other team almost, I don't want to say they were relevant, but it was more about what we could do than what they were going to do.
Well, Dodgers, keep going. I like it right now.
Why
keep
not?
Going. Yeah, bring
to
it.
the victor go the spoils and the shit trash talk.
Yep. Then they won it all. They get to have a good time with it. All right, we'll be right back. If you're watching on YouTube right now, I'll answer a fan question or two, and then we've got a couple things to cover on the back end, including the qualifying offer, which went to just one player in terms of acceptance. Fan question. Going back to manager voting, this from Cards Fan Kane. Does it change the opinion about Torey Lovello when you consider his team had a better record than the Royals and the Tigers and the same record as the Mets and the Braves? Not every exact record is treated the same, so for me, no. His team didn't make the playoffs. For me, I would never vote for a manager that didn't make the playoffs. I don't care what they did. Unless we literally handed them a minor league ball club. Hey, I'm giving you an A-ball team this year. Like literal A-ball players. Well, he got it for not making it.
He didn't make it the year he won. He got fired that year too.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. There's enough teams nowadays that make the playoffs. Can we just vote for managers that bring their team to the postseason?
Why don't we? MVP should make the playoffs too, but they don't.
It's different.
Oh, okay.
For me, it's different.
Yeah, but that's not. I mean, that's not fair either. What if the Braves, the Phillies, and the Dodgers, are the top three teams, and there's no real. It's all just the big spenders. Then how do you pick your manager of the year?
But there's still a number of other teams that made it to the postseason. There's wild card teams. You're saying you don't touch that. At least for me, the winner. I'm like the winner. They got to be a playoff team. The manager that wins, like my first place vote, is not going to go to a guy that led his team to the playoffs.
What if the Marlins are 500 next year? You don't give it to. Okay.
Not me. 500 and they miss. Not me.
Clayton McCullough, 500.
That one is so directly correlated to Dubs for me.
So MVP should be too, most valuable, but not best stats.
Will Venable. Will Venable loses.
Will Venable can't have a worse year. So I mean, he can't. In the history of baseball, no one's ever had a worse year than the White Sox did last year. So he's only got somewhere to go up.
They're improved.
They're going to be better than they were last year.
Yes.
No, they're going to lose Garrett Crochet. They're losing Garrett Crochet.
I'll bet you whatever you want to bet, they win more games next year than they did last year. Whatever you want to bet.
I agree with you. But
I could trade Crochet and Robert, and they still won't lose that many games.
I agree. I'm on your side. If anyone wants to put that bet up against us and say they think they're taking the over on 121 and a half losses, do you think they're losing more games than that? I'll take that bet. All right. Coming right back with a little bit of news. Have you seen him? I can't find him. Where is he? Kratz, have you seen him? I can't find him. Where is he?
Where will one go? Where will one go?
Is this going to be a segment every day, too? If we do that every day. I thought I made it. I thought I made it today. I thought I made it all the way through.
This was all pre-planned.
It is. Yeah, we got to show that video. I mean, way to go, producer lady. Great job. But I mean, it's a cool video, especially at the end when the Philly Fanatic head pops off and Juan's in there.
But
I don't know how the head goes on over the batting helmet. So we should have found a photo without the bat. Just, being picky.
Kratz, I felt like that was actually a good setup. Like you guys both looked at me like, "Yo, we're on TV and
No, I'm like,
and
what
all
the
that
hell
right
is he
now."
talking about?
All right, so there's that. This is real. I didn't just do this for nothing. We got two. Here's one that's a fun joke from Tim Healy, our friend who covers the Mets. He said, "I want to hear about a meeting Juan Soto had with a team that
Me
didn't
too.
show some variation
Me
of well."
too.
I thought you would like this.
Me
He said,
too. Tim, I don't know. Tim, you're great.
Did an exec's PowerPoint not work right? Did Soto maybe just not vibe with an owner? Was somebody too loud of a chewer during the lunch portion? That's a great tweet. It's a great take. And then one more, because this is a real quote from Hal Steinbrenner, the owner of the Yankees, on their meeting with Soto. He said, "We had a good meeting. It was very honest." He said it lasted a couple of hours. How confident is Hal that the Yankees will sign him? He said, quote, "No idea. We'll be in the mix." That doesn't sound great. I'm telling you, when he says it was very honest, I'm telling you what the honesty was. Listen, Hal, I love you guys. I had an awesome year. We made it to the World Series. This is everything I heard it was going to be. Legendary franchise, the whole deal. But honestly, you're super rich. So if you love me as much as I love you, then your check will be the highest. That's what I think's happening right now. I think that's reading between the lines on the response. Thoughts?
Where will Juan go? Just let me know when he gets close, okay? Let me know when he's got to pass the physical. Then we'll talk about where Juan will go.
This shouldn't have been an hour long. He was there all year. He knows what the Yankees have. He knows. Maybe the Yankees are kind of at a disadvantage because you can get a little annoyed during the season. Like Juan could have found something that I didn't like about the Yankees during the season.
Sure. Show your hat real quick. Also, I'll just tell everyone, Nick Martinez is the only one to get the qualifying offer and say okay and accept it. That's normal. There's a hog. A boar.
It's an iron pig. We've seen it. He said
It's a
we've run out
boar.
like 5 or 6 times now.
We got to get Kratz a hat steal. I actually tried. I talked to one place and they were not that nice about it, but whatever. I'm going to work on another spot. Real talk. If
For
anyone
sale
knows a
on
good
tomorrow,
hat
by
deal.
the way, after he wins the Cy Young tonight.
Awesome. Questions for sale, let us know tomorrow. We'll see everyone on Thursday's FT. I'll be on fair territory with Ken Rosenthal. It's big. If you guys want to crash the party, go for it. Maybe we'll do the where will Juan go?
Happy birthday, Tarek Skubal.